Since that's, you can drink in the common area.
All right, it's
That
5
has to
o'clock,
be
we
part
call
of
this work
the
session
social
to order.
district, but
Can consume and where they can. And will they be able to in the new pocket park when that's in? And I've looked on the Liquor Control Commission's site and I can't quite figure out what's okay and what's not okay. The whole thing with a common area in a social district, it's not
It's not
very clear.
artfully drafted, no.
No, it's not.
not. And,
And I'd love to hear from them saying, this is what.
yeah, no, I was just telling Scott that when I saw this, I was hoping to have a chance to call him today, but I ended up out of the office most of the day, had some other stuff, but they realized that this is not clearly defined in the statute, as you read, and they are now basically treating them as being the same thing. Is that the social district and the common are basically the same thing.
That was
And-
my understanding.
Yeah, and so when ours was approved, they were distinguishing between the two, and they're really not anymore. Because there were enough questions from people trying to parse the language, and I know you guys had phone calls with them, and they've sort of given up, but they're not going to change the language because they don't want to. And to get the legislature to do it, it's just too much trouble. So
Right.
that's basically what they're doing, is treating them as the same.
So, and what I'm thinking with that is, as a council, we can shut the social district down at any time.
I do believe you have to give notice and have to have a public hearing.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I do that, but you don't have to, doesn't have to go out to the community or anything. It's your decision after the process.
After the
After you
process.
follow the process.
Okay, so right now it's the city's decision to allow consumption anywhere within the social district.
Based on what
Based
Will
on
said,
What
and
Will said.
so it would include the pocket park,
Okay.
but it would not include the West Colby additions.
Yes. Could it?
You'd have to amend it, because that's expanding it. You still have to go,
I would suspect that would be something of a formal request by the municipality to the Liquor Control Commission.
Correct. Yep. You would have to have a resolution to expand the district and submit it to LCC for their approval.
I'm not in favor of expanding any of it any further than where it already is. We didn't spend all the money to, the pocket parks were like almost $500,000 if I'm not mistaken. And the new West Colby Promenade is almost $1.5 million. Not counting the $1 million we spent making the promenade parking lot area. We're not spending all this money to create a place for people to drink. I mean, parks are for families, and if you can't sustain from drinking for an hour or two while you're at a park with your family, then you got a problem. I'm not in favor of expanding it at all.
Does anyone else want to comment?
I'm not in the favor of it either. Especially the part across, on the south side of Thompson, I guess.
West side. It's west of Thompson.
I have a question on the social district.
Sure.
Can you only consume from one of the participating bars, or can you bring your own?
No, you can only participate from one of the establishments that also requests permission and gets it. And it has to be in clearly identified plastic cups. There's a business logo and a city logo that's on it.
That's correct.
So yeah, unless, it's a special event, council can grant alcohol consumption in the parks. But for this, no, it's gotta be purchased from one of the three.
The three.
We still just have two.
Oh, we have the three,
Yeah,
yes, we do.
Yeah.
Mm.
Who, is Mylan there, or?
They were the
They
third.
They were the third.
Kind of latecomers.
Yeah.
But I don't believe
Didn't they?
Hanson Hill
No.
has their liquor control or their liquor license transferred as yet. Was that one up?
Yeah,
But I don't believe that's transferable. They would have to apply.
they would have to reapply, and their intention, I think, was.
That was my understanding, that they have reapplied. under
Something was
Hanson
brought back
Hill.
to council.
I thought it was too.
It was
didn't
brought
we?
back, it was brought
It's
back.
And we,
It's here.
we did,
Yeah.
we approved their participation in the
Yes.
social district.
But if their name changes, do we have to do something different, or does he have to do something different again?
He has to apply to the Liquor Control Commission
Mhm.
to get that
Mhm.
participation in the social district under his new name.
But that wouldn't be anything that would be brought before us?
No, essentially, we've already said.
Yeah, we've
We
already
approved
told
it, and
them.
then
Yes.
we,
We
right,
approved this, the same entity though, I don't remember.
I'll have to go back and see, because I do recall him being here
Mhm.
and us approving.
Yeah, well, he bought it and he left it the same name, and that's what he applied for at that time. Now he's changing the name.
All he's doing
It's
is
still-
changing a name, that doesn't,
That's
it's still, it's still the
still-
entity, it's the same entity, so he
Yeah, it's
wouldn't
the
have to
same-
get.
It's the same
It's
owner.
probably under an LLC anyway.
Yeah, it's under an
so
LLC or
probably-
something,
so,
and
yeah.
if you're changing the name of the LLC, that's not gonna require, you have to, he's gonna have to notify the people, that's it.
I wouldn't mind exploring it. I would want to get a feel for what other cities are doing, and I wanna check in with the chief or maybe look at it as a trial. You know, as I've mentioned before, I go to, fetch outdoors during the summer, and people seem to be very behaved, very well behaved there, and so I'd like to see how it would benefit our area and benefit our businesses. But I don't see it as an automatic detriment. So,
I remember right last time we talked to the chief about it, there
yeah,
have
no,
been
you said there were.
there have been no issues
Yeah.
down there.
Well, I wouldn't mind knowing what, like, Muskegon City's doing, or City of Montague.
Well, in what terms? I mean, they'll have to
Are they-
comply with the requirements of,
Just what experiences they're having, and then, I mean, are they keeping them small, or are they extending them? We're a tiny city as it is, so I don't know. if they're-
Muskegon's is huge. Muskegon's is huge. It goes down almost to the county building, back and around all the way down.
They have multiple
But they
districts.
have more establishments than what we have in council.
That's
so.
true.
There's a list on the Liquor Control Commission of all the cities in the state
Okay,
that have these social districts, and a number of them have multiple social districts.
yeah.
So, and I haven't read anywhere of any issues with any social district as far as lawlessness.
I would be, as Tanya, willing to explore. I would like to understand how much are people participating? I mean, how many beverages are leaving each establishment so that people can wander around? It's just a curiosity. I haven't heard any reports on, oh wow, the social district we're going gangbusters. People are coming in buying all kinds of beverages. So I would be curious to know what that number is, if we could get a number from the establishment, that'd be interesting.
I'm thinking that, this is still fairly new, and I think we approved it originally as kind of a trial thing, and I don't know if the trial is still in effect, and we're still checking it out. That's kind of what it seems to me, that we're still looking at it, and I don't see any reason to make it bigger if we haven't really determined if we really like this at all anyway. So, some people think it's great, and some people don't. So, I don't know. I just think we should keep an eye on it for another year or so,
And the new
So
area
they'll
is
go-
not built out yet, so it's going to
Right.
be construction for a large period of time.
Yeah,
Maybe we could revisit, before the warm season comes back.
that's what we wanna do, I guess.
I mean,
If I can, just for clarification, council did adopt a social district back in October of 2021. So you're, on the heels of 3 years. And I don't believe you can do a trial method. The fact that you can revoke it kind of sets up a bit of a trial, but you can't kind of try it and say, we didn't like it, because I do believe, and I should be able to find it here, that if you want to revoke it, unless that's the temporary permanent
No, it's,
liquor license,
it's a permit, you would have to revoke it. It's not gonna sunset automatically. You don't have to renew it or anything. It continues until it's revoked.
Okay.
But you can revoke it pretty easily. It's not complicated to do that. Or it's not complicated to expand it or contract it or any of those things.
So it's just, but expanding it has to be approved by the state, right?
But that's not, right. There's a process to it, but it's not that complicated.
yeah, but if you do, I'm assuming this is still up to date. If, before revoking the designation, a local government must hold at least one public hearing on the proposed revocation.
So it takes.
And notice given under Open Meetings Act, et cetera. So you'd have to have a public hearing.
To get rid of it.
Prior to getting rid of it.
Yes.
Do any of the other businesses in Whitehall have liquor licenses?
Well, there's quite a few that have liquor licenses. You got Wesco.
I mean, for on-site consumption.
Scaries?
I don't know offhand. Roger, you got any idea?
Chamber would be.
Are you saying
The
on-site
chamber.
or on-site?
For on-site.
Oh,
Or,
yeah.
or,
within this district or in the towns?
well, within the town.
Chamber and Eagles are the only two I can think of that would be
Legion?
on site.
The Legion.
Oh, Legion, yeah.
Legion.
No, is Pub 101?
Pizza Hut got a beer?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're in it.
already part.
Yeah, they're beer.
Pizza Hut has a beer, I think.
Yeah, they do.
Gary's,
Gary's has got one, yeah.
That's weird.
That's about it, I think.
This is First Street.
There may be some unused ones floating around or something.
I know it took me a while to study.
There's probably.
I wouldn't have thought of Pizza Hut.
Yeah,
The more we
I never
approve,
think about it.
the more we approve for these projects here, the more people we encourage to drink in this area, the less, the more we're hurting the other liquor license holders.
So the ones that are approved for this, they can sell something that you could walk off from their property with. But somebody like Pizza Hut, you couldn't get a cup of beer there and walk out.
No.
Unless they have a packaged liquor
They don't.
exemption,
what's that?
whatever it's called.
Yeah, you
And
can't-
quite honestly, if we don't do, if you guys are looking at revoking this, the North Mears thing on every Monday that we do, that gets used a lot for that, I'm sure. They wouldn't be able to be down there, so
They would have to stay on the sidewalk.
they would have to stay on the sidewalk. Okay.
I'm not looking at revoking anything. I
Yeah, I'd
just-
some,
I'm just not, not in favor of expanding it.
maybe I'm looking at this wrong. It doesn't look like the expansion is much of anything anyways.
Well, at this point, it would basically, you want to call it the top of the horn?
Quarter block.
Because actually, the Big John's property is in the current social district. Anticipating that at some point they might have acquired a liquor license.
So I think at this point, we're all fine with leaving it where it stands today. With the understanding that the existing social district and common areas are actually one area and consumption is approved in that area. Is that a correct? Thank you. Okay. Unless we have further discussion on that, let's move on to the next subject of First Street parking lot stairs. Steve?
Well, it looks like it's being put to the Tifa board. So that was really all I asked to do with this idea. And I think they should have a landing at the bottom so that you don't just walk right into the bike path. You know, there should be kind of a landing down there.
Yeah, good idea.
And so, or maybe with a bench down there, you know, so somebody want to sit.
Straw bales, Steve, like the sliding.
That's right. So anyway, you know, other than that, I think if it's presented to the Tifa board, and we'll see what they think about it, because it is, I mean, it's everybody's money, but it's their control of that money that determines what's gonna happen. So I just need to leave it
Good idea.
as it is.
Well, I think it's a great idea to have a walkway there. I think it'll facilitate greater use of the lakefront.
I think so too.
I've looked at the potential locations for that from the trail and from the parking lot, and there's a spot right near one of the lampposts are going to be, which is definitely a plus if you can have light on that.
Definitely.
And there's, to me, that spot is the best spot, because it has where you could come down and do a landing, and you might wanna take a look up there. It's the middle, where the middle lamppost is gonna be.
Okay. Well, how is that marked?
There's a pedestal there with a bolt sticking up where the lamppost is going to be
okay.
bolted to it.
All right.
And there's, right in front of it, there's a large dead tree.
Okay.
So that would be, you know, I think we could easily put a stairway in there without having to take out any live trees.
Yeah, okay.
There isn't, yeah,
Plus.
there isn't enough room there to do any kind of a switchback to make it handicappable.
No, there isn't really.
Yeah, that would be.
And
I
that's,
mean, it's pretty steep.
it's, and that spot there has a kind of dropping in, kind of a bit of a landing, whereas most of the hill is just straight slant.
Yeah, Hanson Street Hill, you couldn't put a handicap ramp up that hill either, it's just too steep.
Well, you could have.
There's already handicap. There's already handicap. There's a handicap sidewalk there already.
Oh, is it?
Along the rail. It goes behind the. Doesn't it go behind the sidewalk? Go behind the memorial there? Isn't there a sidewalk on that edge? Or isn't it?
What?
On Hanson Street?
No, it'll be on Thompson Street.
Oh. What,
It goes behind the. Or am I thinking?
sidewalk?
Goes behind the
I
memorial.
don't think that that's
There's not a-
handicap.
there's not a-
I think it's too steep.
Too steep. Okay.
So, yeah, I think it's be a great addition. Do we know when we're gonna get those lampposts?
No. But I'll check with Brian.
Okay. Any further discussion on this?
Other than to agree that I think it's something that would definitely be nice to have.
Okay. All right, then we'll move on to the next subject, Tanner Bay Wetland. Tanya?
Okay, sure. I'm gonna try to make this fast because I don't really think I have a lot of answers to questions. And Scott, this is really confusing because it's like a 4-year permit. And it conflicts with the information that I got when I talked to Audrey Kirk, district supervisor for the environmental agency in Grand Rapids. We had about an hour-long talk, and so there's a couple of different things. What she said is, at least she said it was very likely that they would issue or put forward for notice an after-the-fact permit. So apparently the wetland was filled, wasn't supposed to be filled.
Well, and I guess what wetland are you speaking of?
What you can see it from
The area between the railroad and the street?
does that sound
Yes.
right, Tom? Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Okay, go ahead.
Go ahead, are you?
No, I'm not aware that has been filled. There's still wetland there.
Some of it has been.
It doesn't look like a functioning wetland, and when I was there, it looked like at least half of it was filled. Okay, so, So she said and so that's why this is confusing, because it looks like they have a permit.
Correct.
And she said, we'll likely notice it and have an after the fact permit, and people could actually comment or even call for a public hearing. So that's just what I gathered from my conversation with her. So that's why this is confusing, and I've got to call into her. And I mean, you might say, okay, this is a 1/6 of an acre, right? What do we care about 1/6 of an acre in somewhat close proximity to White Lake? And it's, and I mentioned this before, in Michigan, we've lost over half of our original wetlands. And that's why most people like me feel like we should not be filling them unless it's unavoidable. And so there's been no rationale given for wanting to fill this little bitty wetland. On the other hand, there's a lot of rationale for keeping this little bitty wetland because it can support probably thousands of creatures that need a home. Amphibians, frogs, turtles, maybe depending on how, if the lake is up or down, like, little fish species, birds, raccoons, animals.
Mosquitoes.
Well, Steve, stop it. Now you interrupted my train of thought.
I'm sorry.
So, anyway, but they are very beneficial. They're also natural flood control. We've removed so many of our wetlands that's one reason why we do have flooding. So, anyway, so I'm frustrated by this, especially after the length of time, because I was the one that actually, Tom did and some other folks said, what's going on here? Otherwise, it would have been ignored. And it would have been done without even this legal permit here. So,
But this was just on September 25th,
I know,
so
it looks like,
happened before this was issued, right?
yes. And what I'm confused about is it looks like this permit has been issued. Whereas when I talked to Audrey Kirk, she said, we'll likely do an after the fact, but, notice and people can put comments in. And I certainly would have put my own personal comments, and I would have encouraged city council to say, hey, dig this up, restore the wetland. It also, I'm still confused because it seems like, at least from the diagram I looked at in your office, Scott, it looked like this area had some relationship to an area that did say conservation area. Although that's what we have now. So I guess I feel like, I worked, not just me, but I worked for over 20 years to restore White Lake in many different ways, and what we're just gonna not continue protecting the lake. And this is this small little wetland in the city of Whitehall is important for that respect.
And where does, and Bush Creek plays into that too, right?
Yeah,
That's an important piece of it, right?
well, it probably recharges that wetland. Yeah, so, anyway, so I think that's one piece of it. I'm gonna add a little piece, two more pieces quickly. The conservation easement, we somehow ended up with the property that has the conservation easement. And I don't know to what degree that's gonna limit us, so we can still do what we want.
I don't know, Will wants to address that, because the conservation easement has one section, it's paragraph 2, that basically says, here's a whole list of things that is not allowed. And if you look at what a lot of it is basically you can't put in a truck lot, you can't, there's a lot of things that make sense. And then in paragraph 3B,
Yeah, I'm trying to remember the specifics, and we talked about
it
this.
does allow for certain low-key type of development, including a pathway, including observation areas, including public access. So,
Conflicting provisions.
yeah, and I've gone back and forth with Mr. Hipshire in regards to that, because initially he said, here's how you file officially for permission, because it does say those things in 3B can be done only with Eagle's permission. So my conversation, my communication with Chad has been, okay, so does an email suffice? And he said, no, this is how you do it. Then he came back and he said, well, paragraph 2 prohibits it.
Yeah.
I said, so is that just a flat no? And he really has not addressed, nor has the state, how 3B and 2A2, how you resolve the conflict. So myself and Mick McGraw, Nancy Concanon, and Chad Hipshire are trying to set up a meeting so we can all be at the same table and discuss this. But he did finally send out some forms and the process, how to apply to get their permission to do what we want to do. And we're going to work with the Conservation District on submitting those.
Well, I guess my point is, if there's a conservation easement on that dates back to prior permits, first of all, why'd we get it? Why'd we get that property? And then it seems like the intent of the conservation easement is to not have activity on it. And I'm not interested in having activity on a property that it shouldn't have activity.
Well, but the conservation easement does in 3B allow for activity. That's very clear. And the reason we have the property is with the whole development of Tannery Bay, one of the grants required public access. And at the time of the grant, basically, Mick McGraw, I shouldn't say Mick McGraw, Eastbrook Homes drew a sidewalk out to the point. And that was going to be the public access. You walk down a 5-foot sidewalk and you stand there and, that's what you get. Some of the property owners have been expressing displeasure with non-residents being on site.
We
And
talked about this.
in discussions with Mick McGraw, he said, what if I were to donate an acre on the north side of Bush Creek? So we took that to the Tifa board and they said, that sounds good and it sounds like a better public access than a 5-foot sidewalk. So that's how we ended up with the property. And I do believe, and I think Will can back me from the legal side, is that the conservation easement will allow us to do what we want to do. Or at least we would have a good argument.
Yeah, no, I think there was a good argument that you could do that.
What is it that you want to do? I have not heard a plan for it yet.
Basically, it's just a walkway down there, maybe an observation deck, just real low key, some picnic tables, trash cans. There's no parking lot, there's nothing, I don't believe anything's gonna be paved. I think we took back like a boardwalk, so it's just real low key. People on the bike path can kind of detour, go down there and just have a view of the lake.
Well, it is different from what I remembered when we approved the plan unit development, which appeared to be a public road down the middle, public access out the point, which now has houses on it. So maybe houses are a little more lucrative.
Well, a lot, but it wasn't purely driven by economics. Again, I know that Mick McGraw was getting a lot of complaints from the residents about non-residents being on site. And not to pick on a certain class, so I'll just say there was a lot of fishing lines and a lot of fish remnants being left behind on that site.
Well, but it is disappointing because now it does seem like the members of the public had some different expectations.
Well, initially, definitely, but I think what we're getting is a lot better than what was originally contemplated.
Is it going to be handicap accessible?
Probably not, just because of the grades.
Okay, and are we not violating the law then if it's not accessible?
No.
Okay. The way that, do we own it yet?
We do.
Because there's a request for a lot split. It's not split yet, so do we own it?
We do own it. Typically, when there's a lot split, it's done by the property owner, but Eastbrook Homes did not do it. We caught it with actually Equalization caught it. They said, hey, we don't think there was an official lot split approved. So we went back and went, yeah, Mick did not actually do a lot split. So we do own it.
And then, I mean, the The whole thing that makes me, on both of these aspects, the whole thing that makes me angry is that we've allowed businesses to trash what is supposed to be conservation easement. If we do own that city lot, why did we allow Keenan to put all their stuff there?
They've
And
been-
I thought they were gonna be hauling it out starting this week. It's still there as of today.
They were notified to start removing it. They were doing a lot of winterizing of the boats, but they have been put on notice that they have to clean that site.
Well, and what Audrey
Yeah.
Kirk said is that not technically, she said we're in violation because we own the property
That's correct.
and we're violating the conservation easement. So this is just a whole host of issues that seem to be, lots of details that, and this again is one that was raised when, I know you said you were aware of it, Scott, apparently not about everything, but Mick is like, oh, by the way, your questions, Tanya, prompted me to take a look, and your city property has a conservation easement on it, so apparently he forgot, and apparently there's other details we were not aware of. And then the last thing I wanna mention is, at the south wetlands, I had some complaints from people about impact to the southern wetland. And so apparently some people were hampering Phragmites, some of the people who lived there, which you have to have whatever you do in a wetland like that, you have to have a permit, and I'm not sure that it was or wasn't. And then also, were there also other wetland plants that we wanted to stay there removed as well, because Audrey Kirk said from an aerial, it looked like an open pond. And again, I'm gonna mention that I had asked for us to move the houses from close to wetlands when we approved this years ago, because when people live by wetlands, they don't wanna always live by a wetland. You know, they want it to be a pretty pond, and I'm not saying that's what happened, but it's a little frustrating to be
But
right at this point.
I was pretty familiar with that because I
Yeah,
visited a couple of neighbors early. Larry Stranian had one of the houses there, and I was over at his place quite a few times. And initially, when I moved here, the water was still high, and it's gone down. And now all you really have, I mean, as the water went down, the beach formed, and
I'm just saying what Audrey Kirk told me. She said she
okay.
looked at,
Yeah.
she looked at drone footage or something, and she said it was a pond. And I'm not accusing people who live there. Maybe people didn't realize what they were doing, but you can't remove Phragmites, you can't without a permit, and you can't remove wetland vegetation. So I guess I'll continue to explore this, but it points up. We don't have staff who are enforcement. We don't have local ordinances, but it seems like we should find a way going forward to make sure that if they said they would do something, that they would do it, or not do it as it happens. So I just find, yeah.
I guess I didn't know that you're not allowed to remove invasives
No.
without
Not
Without a permit.
in a wet, not in a wet.
okay.
No. So it's just, I know it's challenging with such a large development, but, we still need to protect, what ecological values remain on the site if possible. Anyway,
Well, on the part that we now own, it's already been compacted to the point where, it's not going to be natural anymore. They've been running heavy equipment on it back and forth, and aside from storing everything on it, man, if you're doing work in a wetland, you're supposed to put down work mats before you even drive equipment in to avoid compacting the soil.
and I guess I would just like to end it by asking council down the road to consider asking Nick McGraw to restore that little wetland, that little 6 of an acre.
So I guess my question that I have with this, is that a man-made created wetland? Do you know that? Or was it?
I don't think we know that.
Oh,
It wasn't created-
I'm asking,
yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm assuming from looking at that and being on that property multiple times that wetland was created when they dug out for the railroad spur, but that's
That's
just.
probably natural by now.
I'm sure it is. I'm sure it is.
That's
And the other thing
Yeah.
is, you know, the other concern is, and I understand the wetland thing. We just created 220 acres of wetland that wasn't wetland before. This council has with down at Bishop, or actually this direction. That was not wetland, and now it is. So
Well,
this
we're
council has
restoring.
been very, very forthcoming with creating. I mean, where's the last time somebody's created 220 acres? I mean, off the White River. I mean,
I'm not sure if we've restored it. We're
We
letting
haven't
it
restored
go
it,
to
but
wetlands. We're letting
but-
it go. I
but
absolutely.
it is. I mean, it is. I mean, so
It's a great thing, but
It's now preserved, we didn't create it, it's preserved now, right?
But the
no,
celery
the,
farms are gonna.
the pumps are off, and it's a wetland now. I mean,
Well, it's going back to
yeah,
wetlands.
it's working its way there.
But I guess the point is that, that's not the issue at hand.
No,
It's
no,
great
I
that we
I
are, but
understand.
let's try to be consistent then.
And is there not a rule that if a wetland or when they work out something, if they fill in a wetland or they get permission to fill in a wetland, they have to make X amount? Didn't that happen down there, if I remember right?
Well, it's my understanding that with wetland mitigation, you can either create, and I don't know what,
It's like
Tammy might
zone or something.
know the number, but you have to create more wetlands than
what you-
your,
And what you-
or there is a penalty that can be applied
You
as
have to
well.
apply to do it. You
Yeah,
don't-
that's what I'm
you don't-
asking. That's
yeah,
what I'm
you
asking.
have
I don't know the
yeah.
rules. But
Yes,
but I remember something down at that site where they created more than what was.
It's not, it's not a thing
Oh, okay.
for this site.
Okay.
So unless I'm missing a whole lot of information, and you know they filled this in, and this is an after the fact permit. So, but you can do that if you apply, Jeff.
Mm-hmm.
But you have to apply, and generally.
Yeah, that's what I was curious about. I'd heard something to that effect, and I thought we had done something down there. Or something was done on that site when they started the site, where they created more over by Swenson Park. To
No, there was nothing. I know that was mentioned as a possible
Maybe
cause
that's
for
what it
this,
was.
but it's not
Maybe that's
correct.
what it was.
But no, and
Okay.
generally, you know, any of those man-made created wetlands don't work as well anyway. And they're usually done when you can't really avoid. So anyway,
Right.
that's
all right. That's all. I just
okay.
The last thing
needed
I
some
would,
education.
I'd like to make sure that Eastbrook, follows the rules as far as using clean fill and not shoving all of that very polluted railroad topsoil and railroad ties into that wetland. And I'd like to have them follow the rules from now on.
And I'll just end by saying I will write a letter and ask the department to ask them to restore it. And if anybody wants to sign on with my personal letter, that is entirely up to
I would
you.
definitely sign it.
Pardon?
I would definitely sign it.
They are intending to restore that wetland.
No, they got a permit that says it's okay.
To fill it.
After the fact.
It doesn't say after the fact, but they were just issued a permit, which
Is after the fact.
is after the fact.
I don't even understand why they even gave him a permit, but I guess that's just me. I mean,
I don't either.
you did something you weren't supposed to do because you thought you had a permit for it, but your permit you had expired.
It didn't cover that area.
Yeah, and then you know, so then you go apply for a permit for what you already did, you know, which was wrong, and they give it to you. So what is the purpose of Eagle? I mean, if they're just gonna grant things after the fact, it's just not, I don't know, it's just not common sense.
I don't get it.
I have one question for Scott that kind of relates somewhat to some of this, but indirectly. Since I've been on council, did we or did we not vote that if we were going to create any new parks in the city, that they had to be handicap accessible?
I don't believe we passed anything like along those lines. What we're doing is with our grant applications, there is a requirement to improve ADA accessibility. And I think on our own, what we're trying to do is improve ADA accessibility.
Okay. I guess I misunderstood. I thought,
Yeah.
a few years back, I thought we just,
And we'll take a look at that. I don't know if we actually have the detailed grades there, but obviously the elevations will make it a challenge, but I think we might have enough room to get pretty close to ADA compliance.
I have a general question on this whole project down there. I'm just wondering how long it's gonna be before they make that a gated community and they keep the people out that they're necessarily not desirable to have on their property. And, because they didn't want the pathway obviously out to the point for that reason. Or can they make it a gated community and keep the hoi polloi out?
Well, I'll answer part of that. All of the streets in there are private streets. So they would have the authority, the legal right to limit access. But I think there's also, and Chief and Roger will, because that is Roger, even with your own house, there's something of a complied consent that you can enter, I can go up to your door, knock on your door, unless you say, get off my property. So I think there is some sort of a implied, but I think more specific that Tannery Bay would have the right to limit access to that site.
Essentially become an HOA or something like that.
Well, it's already an HOA,
Yeah.
Right.
and all the streets are private.
I would have to say, living there, I would have to say that there'd have to be a radical change in the mentality for that to happen, because I've never heard anybody say that they wanted gates or anything like that. It's, the only issue that we have had is I guess some people coming in and thinking it was a public pool.
Oh, really?
Or pretending it was a public pool. But there has been no talk at all that I would of wanting to keep everybody out.
Well, yeah, although the private roads do, but I think, so it's essentially kind of a gated community, but however you feel about those. But Scott, didn't we also have like a restaurant and a retail and a pool and, well, there's a pool down there, but there was gonna be some more public amenities too.
Yep, in one of the original designs, there was going to be a restaurant on site.
Yeah.
It was designed as a multi-seasonal restaurant where it was gonna have the fixed facility, then it was gonna have like a 3-season porch, if you will, and then a deck. So that as the season, started to go, they can kind of draw back. But Eastbrook Homes spent 2 years trying to find a restaurateur to operate it, because they wanted nothing to do with running a restaurant, but they were willing to build it and lease it. And because there was no takers, as we found with Harwood Flats, those plans were scrapped. There was going to be a clubhouse, but I don't believe that was ever intended for public use. So yeah, and actually the very first drawing was to, I don't know what Tom would think about this, but to take the old tannery and actually reuse that for all the apartment buildings, with underground parking the whole length. In fact, there's a drawing where they actually cut an arched entry into the middle of it. It actually looked pretty, unless you've been in that
It
building.
looked good.
It looked pretty from the drawing.
I took a tour of it to examine that prospect, but the original, one of the first, if not the first drawings of Tannery Bay, it was a physically gated community.
I don't know if I ever remember seeing that.
I don't know who was associated with it before Mick.
It was Tom Thornhill actually had some sort of purchase agreement, which he transferred to Eastbrook Homes.
Yeah.
And I don't know if Tom ever actually did anything other than holding the legal rights to it. I don't think there was any preliminary
Yeah,
designs.
I sat down with him and he showed me the drawings, so. Thanks for your indulgence on this. And get ready to sign on with me.
Any further discussion on this? All right, then we'll open it up to public comment. Anyone have anything they want to say? It appears not. Oh,
Hi, Mayor Steve. I think I will throw a couple
Okay.
words in.
sure.
Should we turn the mic on?
Is it on or not?
I didn't hear.
It's got a button on the side of it.
Got a button on side?
Yeah.
I think we're live. Good evening, Mayor and council members, and my neighbors and friends. So, I'm Robert Buckwalter. I am a Whitehall resident. I live in the community. I'm in that area often, every day, so I'm pretty familiar with what goes on there from day to day. And I'm familiar with the history, and exactly as Tom indicated, we had high water levels, just as Larry indicated. Things retreated back. I'm also with you, Tanya. Yeah. On the on the wildlife, I think that the the open the wetlands and the open water in there actually is conducive to a lot of different wildlife that we see every day. Even interesting things, the eagles, the buffleheads, and there's actually live fish in that wetland area, which is great because that also means food and habitat for everybody else too. Also want to throw my name, Robert Buckwalter, resident of the city with my family. And as discussions happen about that area, I did want to make sure that everybody had information to help guide those decisions too, because there's actually laws that not only support that but also support shoreline maintenance and maintenance activities. So those are normal. So just for reference, in 2020, so actually let me give you a little more history. So as the water retreated back, permit was pulled by Muskegon County Conservation. They sprayed for the phragmites because that's what popped up when the water retreated. So phragmites were treated, and there's of course you get a lot of debris when that happens. So so all the phragmites are basically just dead biomass that they like for it to be disposed off property, but that's not practical. There's no way to access any of that. So basically, all that stuff just kind of sits on site and decays. But the 2012 Public Act 247, it does allow all this stuff. It exempts mowing. You could actually mow that shoreline area just like you could mow in the park, right up to the water's edge as well. The Wetland Protection Act permits residents to maintain the water's edge. They don't need any permits to do that, just like raking your backyard doesn't require any permits. That includes leveling of sand, removal of vegetation, certainly removal of invasive species. That's actually encouraged. They prefer hand pulling, but mechanical tilling and actually herbicides are actually the best way to get rid of the phragmites. That's right out of the literature and also out of the law. It allows for grooming of the sand with rakes. It supports debris removal. And as you can imagine, on any kind of windy day, there's a lot of stuff that kind of washes up the park. I can imagine everybody who goes to that park every day sees that too. It's the fishing lines, the dead birds, the coffee cups, everything else that kind of washes out of the lake ends up over there. Removal of zebra mussels and Eurasian milfoil is not only permitted but encouraged. Debris should be composted on site where possible according to the law. Phragmites are definitely an invasive species. They were permitted to be sprayed, cut, and removed to discourage any more propagation of that area. Just in terms of the activity and what's allowed there, all this stuff is fully allowed. It doesn't require any permit. Though the this specifically covers those kind of airline areas, including wetlands. All this is public information. It's confirmed by the director of the Eagle and also by the Environmental Protection Act 451. So I just wanted to make sure everybody had like updated information as they go through that, and we're kind of aware of the history there as well.
When was Eagle there?
Eagle
Spraying once or twice there? I was thinking they did
Eagle
it
doesn't
twice.
spray. So just for clarification, Muskegon County Conservation applied for a permit. Eagle approved that permit. Then the Conservation District sprayed for it twice. So when that happens, the invasive species and pretty much anything else there, pretty much died back. So, in areas where it's sand and gravel and it's unconsolidated, people can maintain it. They can mow it. They can. And the city park there is the same. I just wanted you guys to have the up-to-date 2012 information about that. This is how it works in the law.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Steve, can I add a comment?
Yes.
Yeah.
I appreciate that, because I remember when that was passed, and I'm fully aware of that law.
Absolutely. Yeah.
What Audrey Kirk and I were talking about was not the shoreland. We were talking about a wetland off of the shore, which does not come under that law.
No, right. Agree. The variety of habitat is great. There's all sorts of birds and mammals that live in there.
So my comments have been not related to the shoreline, they've been related to the wetland,
Okay.
which definitely come under laws.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah. I think we're on the same page there. So. All right. Thank you for the opportunity to clarify. And I guess just one last comment is, whenever we talk about Tannery Bay, it's not like there's some third party strangers. That's like these are your neighbors. like literally, this is like the community. This is everybody that we see every day. Thanks.
Still on public comment, Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
Calvin Goff, 1010 South Coast Circle. Just a little different take on what Robert just talked about. I've been living there since 2019. I'm the one that actually was involved in having Muskegon County come in and spray the Phragmite, because I've been over walking in Stinston Park, saw the sign, saw the Phragmites, and started questioning how things work. And so I got a hold of the Muskegon County Conservation District. They said they needed to be sprayed. As Robert said, they came in twice and sprayed. I then asked them what's next, because we had all the biomass out there. And they said it used to be mechanically removed. And I said, by who? And they said, you. And so being very concerned about going out there and doing that kind of work, I actually called Eagle myself and talked to a guy named Kevin at Eagle. I have his last name also. And he told me exactly what the county said, that yep, you can go out there and you can remove them mechanically and clear that area. I know there is some area out there that is not part of the wetlands that was explained to us by Eagle about a month ago. And so enough said on that. Then when all the Phragmites were removed and the water retreated, there's the beach. Another item too, that I shouldn't have to come to a city council meeting to talk about this, but we talk about stuff going on with Eastbrook Homes. And, people have had issues with Eastbrook Homes, so I live there, versus the residents that live there. We moved to Tannery Bay so we could become residents of Whitehall, not Tannery Bay. And the Tannery Bay community, I don't know if you know, all they do is volunteer their time in this community by the hundreds. And they give money. They're part of the Snow Farmers. They've been heavily involved in Walk the Beat. They support the Playhouse. They support the local restaurants. We're no different than anybody else that lives in this community. We're not Eastbrook Homes. We're Tannery Bay residents, and we're citizens of Whitehall. And you guys can come down and walk our streets anytime you want. There's lots of people from the city that come down and walk their dogs and jog and bike we wave at them, we never throw stones at them or nothing. So I'm hoping that someday, when the last house is built, we can get away from the people in Tannery Bay because of what's going on with Eastbrook and just focus on the people in Tannery Bay who are Whitehall residents.
Have you ever heard anything about somebody wanting gates?
No, never. I know every single person who lives in Tannery Bay. I'm on the board down there, and that's the farthest thing from our mind is having a, and the stuff about people walking through and all that, again, that goes back to the Eastbrook issues and stuff, even though there are residents that do not want people walking through their yards and stuff, which I can understand, but anyways, enough said. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else have any comments? All right, we're adjourned. 1 minute break. It's 6 o'clock. I call this meeting to order. Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We start this meeting. First up is the approval of the agenda.
I'll move for the approval of the agenda for October 8, 2024.
Second.
Moved and second. Is there any discussion on this? All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Those say no. Next up is the consent agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda as submitted.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion on this consent agenda?
I have no questions.
All right.
One, I just want to clarify what we changed. We are on the consent agenda, correct?
Yeah, that's correct, yes.
What did we change the acreage to on the deer permit? We did go to 3? Yes. I wasn't sure whether we went to 4 or
Nope, got you 3.
Okay, and the other thing is, I don't know if anybody else has noticed it or not, but I'm not so sure we might not need to look at coming up with some kind of a new ordinance for e-bikes on sidewalks. I've seen quite a few e-bikes going down the sidewalks, probably, I would guess at least 15, 20 miles an hour. And I don't think they should even be on the sidewalks, but I don't know what anybody else's opinion is, but I think it's another one of those accidents waiting to happen kind of things if we don't address them.
No?
That's all I have.
Anyone else? Okay, all those in favor of the consent agenda say yes.
Yes.
Opposed say no. We have a consent agenda. Next is message from the mayor, council, and city manager. City manager, do you have any?
Yeah, for a little bit of an update, Zeller Road. We've had engineers out there, we've had contractors out there. There's one of two ways we can go. One is a complete rebuild with probably a square box culvert. You probably won't see that road open until sometime next spring because we're pushing hard against asphalt plants closing on November 15th. We can go with concrete, but by the time we're ready to pour concrete, it's going to be a winter mix, which is normally a lot more expensive than the normal mix, and concrete typically is twice the cost of asphalt. So that's one way we can go for about $500,000. We've also had the engineers and again a couple of contractors going down there that feel extremely confident that we can repair what is there as well as backfill and get asphalt up. We asked our engineer if he can get specs done and out for bids by this week. So next week we can have companies bid for that project, and at your next council meeting we can award a contract to get that fixed. It'll probably be all nice and pretty and buttoned up and open before deer hunting season. And that's about $110,000 fix. So I told Brian and our engineer, says I'm kind of done. Probably council's kind of done of me doing emergency purchases. So we put the fire under Prime and Newhoff and said, get the specs done, get it bid out. We will mail it as well to contractors so that we make sure, typically we advertise it. And with less than a week, there's going to be a lot of contractors that may not see that advertisement. So we're going to put the rush on getting it started. Obviously, we're not going to rush to fix it. We're going to take the adequate amount of time. We think it's about a 1 week job to get in there and fix it, backfill it, and get the asphalt on. And believe me, my wife would be very grateful.
What exactly happened there?
Basically, the current pipe separated in, I think, 4 locations. And when it's separated, obviously that sucks all the soil down. And when that soil goes down, then the concrete drops. So that's basically what had happened. We feel confident that the base is still good, but the pipes just had separated. And probably due to 9 inches of rain.
Did it back up there at all? Did it
Yeah, it backed up quite a bit because,
behind the bridge? Or
yeah, on the, I guess it would be the northeast
East
side,
side.
east side of the bridge. With the county redoing the culvert by the library, because they went from 2 foot diameter to 6 feet diameter. So all of that stormwater came nice and flowed perfectly is the way they designed it. And then it hit ours, which was, I think we were only 2 18-inch pipes. So there was a lot of water and too much water, so there was a lot of backing up. And obviously that's gonna kind of infiltrate on top of those pipes as well, and led to the separation and things coming apart.
so it's kind of a county fault.
No, I did not say that. I said it worked the way they designed it, and it's road commission, so we can't even, I don't know.
He's back there.
Yeah, he is. It's road commission, it's not county. So, no. Once we get ours back together and we avoid 9 inches of rain, we'll be good for quite a while.
That was amazing. I mean,
That's all I have, Your Honor.
Okay. Let's start with, yeah.
Very quickly, we have our senior advisory survey done, and I think there's printed copies out, right up here. They're out at locations throughout the community. It is also online, it's going out in the water bills. I wanna thank the city staff, for helping with this last little leg of it, and then it will be back, we asked for them back by November 15th. We will take a look at them, see what it means, and then come up with some recommendations. So I apologize, it took a little bit longer to kind of get it up and going, but great bunch of folks. And if you're a senior, you can fill the survey out. So we also said you can fill it out if you're a caregiver, somebody who cares about somebody. So, and you have to be 60. And so our area of concern, so a couple meetings ago, I talked about the White Lake area of concern, delisting 10th anniversary, which I was very involved with for several decades. And the mayor, for some reason, said, set up a committee, so I did, and he's on it. But so we have 2 mayors at our presentation. 2 mayors, we have the White Lake Association talking about a new water quality testing program. We have another project that Dr. Rick Radisky, formerly of Annis Water Resources Institute, is going to be presenting, that I'm working with him on. We're going to have talk about some members long gone. We're going to have some other spots for other local initiatives, and that's open to the public November 15th at the Book Nook in Montague. That's where we had our restoration celebration. It's 3 to 5:30 p.m. And so I think it'll be a nice time just to kind of mark the fact that it's been a decade since we got off the area of concern list and see what some of the new things going forward are going to be. So I appreciate Mayor Salter's involvement and the rest of these folks, and hope to see folks there.
Will you say that again? When is it?
November 10th, 3 to 5:30 p.m. There is a news release that's going out, and it will, the city can probably help circulate that a little bit maybe, right, Scott?
Yeah, was it the 15th or the 10th?
10th.
Okay,
The 10th, the
Because I think
15th
you
is when
said-
the survey's coming back.
gotcha.
I
All right.
do misspeak, so,
No, you didn't.
okay, not this time. Okay, yeah, 15th for the survey, 10th for it's a Sunday afternoon at the book. So, anyway, so thank you very much.
Thank you for all your work to get that senior survey out. That can be a good thing for the community and the seniors.
It's a good survey, and the committee works long and hard, so, and our job is still not done. Now we have to analyze the results, so, but thank you, glad to do it.
So we talked about the tree grant. I'm just curious to know if that got, if Brian, you mentioned that it was Brian who would handle it. And
Yep. And I think you were there when I asked, right?
Was that?
Yeah,
Okay.
we've applied.
Okay, great. And then just curious, when we, with respect to the storm and the storm water and how much overflow and I know it was an unusual, unprecedented amount of water that came through. When we redo roads, are we working on infrastructure? I mean, I know we're moving, is that any storm infrastructure improved when we redo roads? What are we doing to upgrade, improve that infrastructure as we rework things?
If there's existing infrastructure that needs improvement, then we are doing that. And we've started adopting the common terminology of storm scepters. We've got 6 of them in the city, where it's actually the storm drains. Basically, the water goes in a circular motion, and that separates out a lot of the solids from the water. So then we go through there a couple of times a year with our sewer vac and clean it out. But we are shying heavily away from putting in any new storm sewers. What we're doing is, most of the city is on sand, so our preference is to let the water just absorb through naturally. If you start putting in storm sewers, then you've got to have an outlet for it or retention ponds, and it gets extremely expensive and a lot more environmental requirements and regulations. So if it's existing, then we certainly address it at the time we're doing the roads.
And the one under Zeller that you're talking about putting the pipes back together, is that going to be an issue now with the culvert having much larger flow coming through? I mean, even on a normal sort of rain?
No, it really shouldn't.
Thanks.
Somebody that lives across the street from Funnel Field, thanked the city for, told me to thank the city for the dog stations that got put in. And I was walking down by the marina today, Bonnie saw me and she says, there's a pipe that's been leaking for about a month, leaking city water. It's by Pier 39, I believe is the number. And I looked at it, it looks like it's about a gallon every 5 minutes is what I would estimate. And I had a question on the safety of the Lake Street, Main Street intersection. Twice in the last month, I've had people pull out that have stopped on Lake Street, and I'm coming down Main and turning, and they pull out right in front of you. So I don't know if we should have stop signs on Lake Street. On Main Street instead of Lake Street, or
The reason we don't on Lake Street is for winter. With that being so steep, it becomes more of a hazard in the wintertime with any type of snow or ice on the road. And I don't think, it keeps moving around. That happens, but I don't think that intersection has been overly burdensome as far as traffic issues and accidents.
okay.
I mean, I'm not doubting what you're saying, because I do know that it happens.
It's slow.
Yep.
But, it's not gonna be a high-speed crash or anything,
Yeah.
but, okay.
I think the reason that was done that way originally, because that used to be part of Scenic Drive, and Main Street was a lot more of a used route than Lake Street was. Scenic Drive started at the corner by Pickens and went up Mears and turned down Main Street and got onto the lake there and went all along the lake, and it was all part of Scenic Drive, they call it, along White Lake the Beautiful. And so I think that's how that originally started, being the more important right of way at that corner was way back when that was a much more major street, so I don't know if it needs to be looked at or not. So,
That's it. Steve, you're up.
that's it.
That's it.
All right, that's all I got. Thank you.
Nothing other than what I brought up, pretty much out of turn on the e-bike deal on the sidewalk.
Maybe we'll get that put on a
Work session agenda?
Yeah, maybe. One thing, I didn't realize it's creeping up this fast, but I need to be excused from the 11-12 meeting. I will be in Manistee. Scouting for little critters.
So we need a motion to excuse Jeff.
I'll make that motion.
Yeah.
Oh, I'll second.
No, she seconded it.
No.
Ow! I get it
Boy,
up
where am I
there.
into that?
Too fast.
Denied.
All those in favor, say yes.
Yes.
Opposed, say no. All right,
Happy hunting, happy hunting.
Anything else?
No, that's it.
Okay, I just wanna say that, remind people that, leaf pickup is coming, starting Monday, October 28th, and going to Saturday, November 23rd. That's the plan. Hopefully there's no problems with that. All right, next up is a public comment. Anyone like to make a public comment? Please step forward and give your name.
Kim Sear, your local county commissioner. I have a couple of things from the county. This past week we had a groundbreaking out at the Resource Recovery Center, and that was to start the Southeast Regional Force Main, which basically what that is, it's a pipe for wastewater that's going to start in Muskegon County at the wastewater treatment, and it's going to go north to Coopersville. It's about a 17-mile run. They've been agriculture is one of the largest industries in our state, and West Michigan's home to numerous farms and processing facilities. The people that are going to initially get involved will be Swanson Pickle, DeVries Meats, Applegate Dairy, Fairlife, Continental Dairy, and these are, a couple of them said they're expecting to expand once that gets hooked up and grow their business because there's some constraint right now because they can't get their effluent out. But this is a pretty big deal. It's actually been in the works since 2001. So, it's been a long
What's the size of
time.
that?
But that's a, pardon me?
What's the size of that?
I believe that pipe was 20 inches, I believe. I think that was, I don't know, I was standing on it, so I'm not sure how big it was. I didn't measure it. The other item that we're talking about, in concurrence with the April 6th recommendation from the Muskegon County Board of Commissioners, the United States Department of Transportation has selected Denver Air Connection from Keyline Air as Muskegon's next essential air service provider. The Colorado-based airline offering 24 weekly flights to and from Chicago O'Hare International Airport on an Embracer 50-seat regional jet, with service beginning November 1st this year. And this exciting announcement marks a significant milestone in Muskegon's long-awaited return to reliable all-weather jet service. So that's a big deal for Muskegon too. Now we can fly across the lake, we're on a jet, and they're beautiful planes these guys have. So, and they brought their whole crew down, and we had a photo op, and they got to go on the planes and that kind of thing. So it was a lot of fun, and it's gonna really upgrade our airport service.
Good.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else? Not, we will move on. I don't believe we have any older business. So, new business, Eagle Scout project request. I don't see Maggie here. See Maggie here. So, hopefully you've all read about her request. I think it's a wonderful thing that she wants to do, and I think we ought to lend our approval and support for this.
As a former scout, I will make a motion to approve this recommendation or her project, her Eagle project.
I'll second that.
It's been moved and seconded. This is just a voice call because there's no dollars involved.
I have a question for Scott.
Yes.
Is the library in the Tiffin district?
No.
No?
Fire prevention weekend.
Fire prevention parade,
Now that I
yes.
said that,
I didn't know if the rail trail and the library were within the Tiffin district or not.
now I'm not sure if they are.
My only reason for asking was, I know that we're talking about spending $300, which isn't a lot of money, but if it was part of the Tiffin district, if there was any way that Tifa could come up with the $300 for the person so they didn't have to spend it themselves.
I'll double check and run something by Tiff on Thursday.
Thank you.
I think part of that project too is for them to
To do
do fundraising.
Oh, okay.
So, I mean, I'm certainly not opposed to Tifa supporting that, but
Then maybe that
Generally,
person needs to request it.
There's quite an outline. When I did my Eagle project, yeah, there's quite an outline you have to go through, and you have to come up with a budget, and I don't know what's changed in the last, I don't say how many years since I was in Scouts, but yeah, it was quite a thing to do to get it.
Is she asking us for
No,
No,
Okay,
no.
just our support?
Just,
yeah, right now, it was just my suggestion that since it was such a minor amount of money, if Tifa had an extra $300, they could give it to her, you know, make it easier for her.
Can we help her publicize it, like on the city website or something?
Mm-hmm.
It was up to her to request it.
Yes.
Is that what she's asked us?
No,
No,
She hasn't
just wanted
asked it yet,
approval
but
for
just
that.
approval of the project.
She just wanted approval to do the project.
Okay.
She didn't ask for any money. That was my suggestion.
Well, no, I didn't mean, I just thought, you know, we could help her promote it and,
Oh.
you know, I mean, if she wants us to, then maybe we should wait to see.
I think generally they have funds already secured when they do these kind of projects, so.
Well, I meant just public awareness, this is what they're doing, just to give her a little attention, so I think it's a great idea.
All right, all those in favor of the Eagle Scout project, say yes.
Yes.
Opposed, say no. Eagle Scout project will go forward. Resolution 2433, lot split request.
I'll make a motion to approve the lot split as submitted by the planning commission. I
Second.
guess that's who submitted it.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion on this?
I just would like a clarification that this lot split is for the piece of property that Eastbrook Homes gave to the city, correct?
Correct.
We're not splitting the piece that we already have.
We are not. Yeah.
It's just a legality.
Correct. Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Sittenga,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Holmstrom,
Yes.
Zemer,
Yes.
Hillebrand,
Yes,
Cavallo,
Yes,
Salter.
Yes. Resolution 2433 is approved. Next up is resolution 2434, leaf removal.
I will make a motion to approve resolution 24-34, leaf removal and all that's involved with it.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion or need for any clarification?
I have a few concerns, I guess.
Okay.
One is if the leaf removal company is offering to sell their trucks to the city of Whitehall and the city of North Muskegon for $225,000. Why are we being asked for $133,000, which is more than what half would be?
Oh, that should be 113. So that would get us to, right, 113?
112.5.
Yeah.
Yeah, bad math.
Okay. The other concern I have is, has anybody looked into what type of condition mechanically these vehicles are in? And we know that they're gonna work and we're not gonna have to dump a bunch of money into them?
Yes, we've requested their maintenance logs. We also have talked to some of the drivers and some of the public works employees that are familiar with those vehicles. Part of the negotiations will be monetary allowances for anything that might foreseeably break in the near future or that needs immediate attention. And Mr. Jensen and myself have already discussed those along with our two public works directors. We feel that there probably needs I think the blowers are the biggest aspects of those vehicles. So we want some assurances that financially, with the negotiations, that if we have to replace 3 to 4 of those, that we have the reserves to do so.
I guess one of my concerns is it's like, we're getting 2, they're getting 2, and there's one that's a spare. And say Monday, North Muskegon's out vacuuming their leaves up and then one of their trucks breaks and they start using the spare. Tuesday, one of the trucks in Whitehall break and they're still using the other one because they're waiting for parts. What happens?
One of us falls behind.
The nice thing is we're not bound by a contract with days any longer.
Yeah.
So we just go along.
And that's my final question is who's gonna drive these trucks?
For this fall, it's gonna be Public Works employees. You know, we're gonna do the best we can to make adjustments. In the future, we can look at probably maybe contracting that out. The drawback with contracting is you have less control over the hours, and I mean, unless you're doing it contractually. But if we contract a couple of drivers, we have to give them some level of leeway as far as when they do it and how they do it. Unless we start doing it more contractual versus contracted employees. If that pass with will.
I didn't know if maybe the guys that we got that are doing lawn work that is slowly coming to an end would, if any of our part-timers would, no. I'm not gonna trust them with that.
Nothing bigger than a 42-inch mower.
Okay.
I have a question on how many labor hours are we gonna have into if we're doing this ourselves?
I think they were running up to 12 hours a day for 5 days a week. So, and you know, they went between 1 and 2 trucks. So it's going to be a lot of labor involved, but we do have the $69,000 that we budgeted. Most of that was for this contract. I think it was $64,000 was the contract. So we can bill our labor to that account. And I think we've got that covered.
But would we not have more hours involved in it than they do because of the fact that we have union rules and stuff that we have to follow?
No. We still can set hours of operations with the union. It might, part of the reason why we contract things out is that in the long run it's cheaper. But for the immediate future, I would rather go this route than take 3,902 complaint calls.
Yeah, don't do leaf pickup in Whitehall, hang on.
Yeah. But one other concern I have is where the leaves have always been stored at, behind the DPW there off of White Lake Drive. They always had to have the company always had the responsibility of getting rid of it. And now if we're doing it ourselves, what are we gonna do with it?
It's gonna be our responsibility. Brian has talked to, cause Double L used to do it for us, and then Lakeshore Leaf. There are farmers that don't accept it as donations. Mainly it's hauling costs. But I think Brian said it's gonna be $10,000 to $12,000 to dispose of the leaves. And we do have a number of farmers in the area that have been taking them over the last few years. That's always been kind of a temporary, just, you know, get them off the streets, then they always come back later during the winter to dispose of them. And that's probably what we're gonna be doing.
I remember back when, you know, the guys had the trailer that they pulled behind and did it with a rake. And then it was the city that was doing it. They just kept turning it and turning it and turning it, and people could go over there with a truck or trailer.
We used to have some very nice leafy compost, topsoil, but Eagle now regulates compost piles. And it's a lot of work and a lot of extra expense.
I have another question too, as far as if our employees are gonna be working, did you say 55 hours a week?
Well, that's what
they were doing.
That's what they used to do, about 60 hours a week, 12 hours a day, 5 days a week.
So what's gonna not be done? All our guys are doing
We're gonna stretch things to the max. As we get into fall, things do kind of, I don't wanna say there's a lull, cause the guys are always busy and something always pops up or breaks. But our busiest time typically is always in the spring, when we're trying to get the cemetery cleaned up and get the city, nice once weather hits. So right now, I can't tell you what won't get done, but obviously, leaf pickup is gonna be a priority for 1 to 2 of the employees.
What kind of cost will there be for insurance? The extra insurance cost?
Very little. We have fleet insurance, so we will add the vehicles to our insurance carrier. But when we've done that with squad cars or pickup trucks, it's pretty much a negligible increase.
Where is the 5th unit gonna be stored?
I think at this point, it's probably gonna be stored down in North Muskegon. But we can go and pick it up anytime we need it. And that, the 5th unit is gonna be not just for breakdowns, but also if, Mother Nature doesn't always cooperate. So if we get hit heavy, then we might be running 3 trucks instead of the normal 2.
What does one mill generate?
One mill probably is about $95,000 a year now.
We have authorization to do how many mills?
Up to 20,
Up to 20, and we do
15.
15 something?
Yep.
Can we maybe look at, after we get some experience doing this fall, maybe look at a future work session of dedicating maybe 1 mill to the leaf pickup, so we know we're gonna have it in the future? Like you said, we've been spoiled for so long with the leaf vacuuming that if it disappears, you're gonna have a lot. You're not gonna retire fast enough.
I just gotta get through one more fall.
Okay, thank you.
All right, is there any further discussion on this matter? And roll call, please.
Holmstrom,
Yes.
Sittenda,
Yes.
Kabala,
Yes.
Hildebrand,
Yes,
Zemer,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Salter.
Yes. Resolution 2434, leaf removal is approved. Next up is public comment. This is where the students step up to the microphone and give us their name and their school. This is what you need to do to get your big sign.
Hello guys, my name is Braden Mashke and I come from Montague High School and I've come to take notes and watch you guys do this meeting.
Thank you.
My name is Miguel Ambrose and I go to Montague High School.
That you?
Hi, my name is Charles Pease and I go to Montague High School.
Thank you.
So I'm doing stuff and I go to Montague.
Thank you.
Oh.
That wasn't so hard. One more?
I'm Grace Rolowitz and I go to Montague High School.
Thank you. All right, we got all the students. Is there anyone else that has anything they want to say? All right, thank you all for coming. We're adjourned.